Rabbi Tzvi, Wolvovsky, to speak about the two tkufas in the Moshiach.
Good evening. So we'll talk a little bit about what's going to happen when Moshiach's going to come. Maybe we'll get to the bottom of it. But obviously, when Moshiach's going to come, that's going to be the ikar, right? So, in general, we hear all the time about with Moshiach's going to come. What's talking going to happen? Moshiach's going to come. We're going to walk through the door. What's exactly going to happen? So. We all grew up, there's a lot of books about Moshiach, there's paintings, there's pictures, and if you go through the growing up, or the stories you hear, or the things you're told, or the psukim that are always, always taught us, you see the pictures of, the lion with the sheep, the kids playing with the snake, the tractors with the grapes, all the good things that are going to happen when Moshiach's going to come, and that's talking what's going to happen when Moshiach's going to come. We have all these psukim. We read in Aftera on Achan Shal Pesach about all these things that Moshiach's going to come. Many, many places in Nevi'im and in Torah even it says that there's going to be a time when Moshiach's going to come and we're going to have, the world's going to be different. So, l'chayr, it seems pretty simple what's going to happen when Moshiach's going to come. We have all these clear psukim and all these nice stories we're always told about. But I just want to read a short Gemara. We'll go through a Gemara together here. It's a few lines, and then maybe we'll get to it. And a lot of what I'm going to say now is a Sikha Rabbi Chelik of Zion, but we'll try to add a few more things as comes. But we'll start with there's this Gemara in Brachas. The Gemara is talking about different psukim. But what's in the Gemara to us, it says Rabbi Rabbi says in the name of Yechnon, all the Nevi'im, all the words, all the prophets, all these stories that we just said, and all the psukim that we learned, that's only talking about Yemoisa Moshiach, the days of Moshiach. But Olam Haba, that the pasuk says, Ayin Leiras Elokim Zolosecha, eye hasn't seen any, only the Eibishter has seen it. We can't even relate to what's going to happen by Olam Haba. So you see, Rabbi Rabbi clearly says that all these psukim that the prophets say, that's going to be this time called Yemoisa Moshiach. The Gemara says he argues on Shmuel. So what the Shmuel says, Ein bein Olam Hazeh Moshiach ala Shivud Malchus Levad. There's no difference between what we're living in now to when Mashiach's going to come, besides for the government. Right now, we have a Goyish government at the top of us. We have different things that bother us. We can't serve the Eibishter in Gansen. When Mashiach's going to come, there won't be any difference. Exactly the same way it's right now. The only difference is, we're not going to have the trouble from the government. We're not going to be their avadim. They're going to be our avadim. And he says, brings it out from the pasuk. The pasuk says that there's always going to be poor people forever. So if all these stories about Moshiach are true, then how could there always be poor people? So we must say, when Moshiach's going to come, there's going to be no difference. The only difference is we're going to be the boss, which is a great thing. I mean, to be the boss is a very good thing. But we see here a clear machlokes in the Gemara what's going to happen when Moshiach's going to come. So the Rambam very famously. So interestingly, this Sikha the Rambam, I'm going to read another Sikha later. It's a Hadar and Rambam, but the Rebbe said a Hadar and Rambam. This is from Tafshin Lamed Gimel. So before even the Takana of learning Rambam every day, more than 10 years before that. But it's not interesting that already then there was a Hadar and Rambam. So obviously Rambam bringing Mashiach closer. The Rebbe shared that with us, right? The Rebbe, there's always the Indian of learning Rambam, but then the Rebbe shared it all with us. But the Rambam also has a very, very, very famous shit that the Rambam clearly writes. Beginning of Parakut Beis, and these are the prophets that talk about Mashiach's going to come. It says, don't think that when Mashiach's going to come, anything's going to change, or there's going to be a chiddush in Ma'aseh Bereishis, so there's going to be anything different to the way the world was created. Olam Kamin Havei Noyeg, the Rambam says, the world will continue being exactly the way it is. And then the Rambam continues and says, what do you mean? All these psukim say that the sheep and the wolf, and there's going to be the leopard and the goat, they're all going to be living together. What does that mean? So the Rambam says it's only a mashal. But really, it's a mashal that the nations that are compared to wolf are not going to bother the Yidden will be able to serve Torah. So we clearly see that the Rambam, and the Rambam goes on more about this, but we clearly see that the Rambam is saying over here that when Mashiach is going to come, there will be no difference of what, and the words Rambam uses is minhagei shel olam, the minhag, the way the world runs, or ma'aseh bereshis, there's not any difference. So all these nice psukim, all these things we grew up on, that's just a mashal. But somehow one adds up to the other. I mean, really, it's just going to be all the same. So if you think about it for a second, right away, anybody, will jump up at you. There's this one fundamental thing about Moshiach, which is Tchias HaMesim, which any way you're going to look at it, it doesn't matter. That's not, if all the people that are not alive are suddenly going to get up, I don't care how you're going to spin it, that's not Minhagei Shalom, that's not Ma'aseh Bereshis, that's going to be a little bit interesting. Suddenly all our Zaydis come and start having a Farbrengen with us. I'm sorry, how do you say that that's just a mashal? Furthermore, the Rambam himself, obviously, everyone heard about the Gimel Ikrim, the 13 principles of Emunah, which we don't say it in davening every day. The Rabbi explains that the Rabbi says that the Alter Rebbe didn't put it, so we don't say it. But the Rabbi gives a few reasons. The Rabbi says maybe one reason is because the nusach of it, the Rambam didn't write. And a nusach hatfilah, you only bring in things that were actually brought down by the Ashek HaSagdela. But we definitely believe in these 13 Ikrim. And there's the two last Ikrim, second to the last one I think is Tchias HaMesim, or second to the last one is Moshiach, and the last one is Tchias HaMesim. So we see that there's two separate things. One is believing in Moshiach, which the Rambam just said, what's believing in Moshiach? The Moshiach's going to come, but the world's going to be exactly the way it is. We're just not going to have a government, or not going to have a Goyish government. And the next one is Tchias HaMesim, how does one work with the other? And we'll get back to that. We'll talk about that more in a minute, but we see right over here, even in the Rambam himself, there is this kind of idea of something more than just the world continuing the way it is. And before we continue, we mentioned already in the Gemara, so we said, Rabbi said that all the Nevi'im are talking about Yemais Mashiach, but then there's this thing called Olam Haba. So what is this difference between Yemais Mashiach and Olam Haba? So there's a lot of ways to explain it, but there's just this interesting letter. The real argument is amongst different Rishonim or even later on, if there is this, what's the tachlis of Yidden getting schar from the Eibishter? Hashem is going to give us schar for all the mitzvahs we did. So we said Mashiach's going to come. Is the tachlis getting schar the way we are neshama b'guf with our bodies, the way we know life now? Or is there going to be this other thing afterwards where you won't really have a body, you won't really be confined to eating and drinking and different things like that? So the Rebbe brings down over here from many Rishonim that talk. So there's this Yemais Mashiach. Yemais Mashiach is like Mashiach's going to come. We're going to have the Beis Hamikdash. We're going to have Tchias HaMesim, and then there'll be a second time. There's going to be another era called Olam Haba, or Olam Haba, which is a time after Tchias HaMesim, so it's not there's no achila or shtia, there's no Indian food and drink, no business, no kina, no priya virivya. Just it says, it brings in Gemara, tzadikim yoshim, the tzadikim sit, their crowns are on their head, and they have anah from ziva shchina. They have anah from the shchina. The Rebbe goes into the whole discussion over here, so that we say that there's going to be Sa'udis when Mashiach's going to come and all that, and it's mashma from the Rebbe is from the Alter Rebbe that it's mashma that the Sa'udah is going to be so the Rambam son said that the Sa'udah is going to be right at the beginning. Right when Mashiach's going to come, we're going to have a Sa'udah, and then we're going to move on to bigger and better things. But it's mashma from the Alter Rebbe that even this Nenem is Vashchina is still a time of Sa'udah. And so the Rebbe says l'chayra, even there's going to be a time of Mashiach. There's going to be a time of Olam Haba. Olam Haba doesn't mean there's not going to be food and drink. So what do we think of food and drink nowadays? We think in order to keep us alive, to keep the neshama in the guf, you need to eat and drink. Moshiach's going to come to keep the neshama with the guf. It's going to be the ziva shchina. The food and drinks can have a different purpose. There's going to be not for the kiyam haguf. There's going to be some inyan of achil of shtir for other things. So we do have these two inyanim of Yemais Mashiach and this idea of Olam Haba, which comes later, which clearly Yemais Mashiach is going to be some sort of more physical, gashmiistic way, somewhat relatable to what we know now. And then there's this idea of Olam Haba, which I guess you could kind of relate it to where neshamas go now after you pass away, but obviously on a much higher level because it's going to be after Mashiach's going to come. but still some sort of neshamas begufim or not. So we have these in Yadam. Now, interestingly enough, many years before this sikha, about 10 years before this sikha, there's another famous sikha that was given out, which is famously called in Kuntres in Yanosh Teres Chassidus. It's in the back of Sefer Erchim, where they ever tries to explain it. It's quite a long sikha, which is probably kiveh share for itself, but they ever tries to explain the idea of Chassidus. What did Chassidus add to the world? Or coming to the Chedesh Kislev, which is the Chedesh of Chassidus. What did Chassidus add in the world? And then the Rebbe first explains a few things, and then the Rebbe says, before we understand what Chassidus added in the world, let's first see what the schar of Chassidus brings in the world, or the schar of mitzvahs brings in the world, which that's Moshiach. And the Rebbe right over there says that Moshiach is going to bring not just a level, which the Rambam says, where Yidden are going to be able to understand the Eibishter on a very, very deep level. Also, it's going to bring a shinui and a chidush in Ma'aseh Bereishis. It's going to change the world the way we know the world now. And then there in the Ara, the Rebbe brings over there already this Indian, and there the Rebbe says, Al Kalpanim B'doichak, so this is 10 years before, the Rebbe says, B'doichak, we could say that even according to the Rambam, which you already mentioned, the Rambam clearly says that Mashiach's going to come, it's all a mashal, everything the prophet says is just a mashal, but even according to the Rambam, there's these two tkufas. There's a time, first, where the world remains the same, and it's more of just a learning Torah type of world. And then there's this other element where there's this shinui and chiddush and ma'aseh bereishis, where the world gets a little on a higher level, even the way we recognize it in Godfrey. So we already see even 10 years before the Sikha, that I was already trying to explain that even according to the Rambam, there's this idea where, and again, not necessarily what I just said earlier about Yemaisa Moshiach and Olam Haba, even within this level of Yemaisa Moshiach, where when Moshiach's going to come, there's going to be this idea of everything staying the same. Even according to the Rambam, where everything stays the same, there's going to come a later time where things can't stay the same.
Just 1 second.
Yeah.
The Gemara already says, according to Rabbi, that there's two.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the assumption is that if you have them like Shmuel, then there's only one.
Right.
So
right.
Therefore, the chiddush is that even according to Shmuel, it says Ein Bein.
Shmuel says Ein Bein.
So he doesn't hold the fact it's going to be that the
he doesn't. That could be. I don't
therefore, we're trying to. I'm asking. I don't know.
I'm not sure. That could be.
No, because you're saying it's like the chiddush of a deichak. The Gemara already says to. No, I get that. Right. The Gemara already says, why is it a deichak?
The deichak that the Rebbe says, Al Kapanim B'deichak, the Rebbe saying according to Shittas Rambam. We're talking about
it's the Shmuel.
She's a Shmuel. Yeah. No. So what I just said now is that the two tkufas that the Rebbe is trying to say in Shittas Rambam are not two tkufas, which one is in Moshe Mashiach and one is in Olam Haba. It's two tkufas in Moshe Mashiach itself. Why? Because according to the Rambam, the Olam Haba, I mentioned it briefly, is the shamas without gufim b'chlal.
Right.
Which means in Yom Mashiach, where there is neshamas b'gufim, you still have these two levels.
Which are what? One level is.
We'll talk. Why
are you being mukhar? There's two levels according to the Rambam.
We'll talk about it in a minute. I didn't get to that yet. I said.
Let's see, say maybe
No. Olam Haba is la'achar she'yivka. It's for sure separate. Yeah. Well, I didn't get to the so fine. But what Rabbi Yamish is saying here goes into what I'm saying now. Even the Rambam himself in Hilchos Tshuva, I just want to read again 2 lines over here, and the Rambam says these words. The Rambam says that. He brings down this level that we just said. Amru Chachamim, Kol HaNeviim Kulam, all the prophets, Lo Yinibu Elo L'Moisei Mashiach, all their prophecies only for Moisei Mashiach. Aval Olam Haba Ayin L'Raso L'Tim Z'Losecha. So this is not Shmuel, the man, the Amar and Gemara, who said that there's only Shibud Malchias, which that's what the Rambam said in Hilchos Malachim. Here the Rambam is clearly quoting Rabbi Abba, who says, Kol HaNeviim Nisnabu. He's talking about all these prophecies going to be real. It's really going to happen. Because Shmuel argues and says, no, it's only Shibud Malchias. He says it's really going to happen. And the Rambam quotes it here in Hilchos Tshuva. So again, we see in the Rambam himself. So there's ways b'doichak to explain this theory. But I don't want to get into So you see the Rambam in one place takes the shita of Shmuel, which says when Mashiach's going to come, there's no difference. Here the Rambam quotes the sheet of Rabbi Bar Abba. The Rambam clearly does believe in Tchias HaMesim. It says if you don't believe in Tchias HaMesim, you're a Chayfer, a Kala, a Kula. So we have to understand exactly what what exactly I'm going to say. So we'll just talk about one other brief Pekudah before we're going to get to what how the Rebbe is actually. And again, we already touched on the answers that there's two tkufas, there's two errors, even in the Shitta of the Rambam. I'll get to that in a minute. There's another thing where there's this idea of what we mentioned earlier, the lashon of the Rambam, Mashinui and Ma'aseh Bereishis, Mashinui in the creation of the world. So let's first understand, what does it mean that there's a change in the creation of the world? For example, there's an argument about, not an argument, one of the Chidushim when Moshiach is going to come is that trees that don't have fruits are now going to have fruits. Right? It's interesting because there's halacha, you're not allowed to cut down a tree with fruit. And growing up in Prague, I never thought that halacha is ever going to be negated to me whatsoever. And then you find out that annoying tree in your backyard you can't cut down. So, but there's tree, but there are trees with fruits and trees without fruits. Everybody knows that. And when Moshiach is going to come, trees without fruits, it's a l'chara. So l'chara, that's a change in Ma'aseh Bereishis. But it's explained a lot of dafke because, again, what was the teva of the world? The world created l'chara. The dinosaur created the world with all trees in the oifen that they could have fruits. For whatever reason, some trees, either right then by Ma'aseh Bereishis, decided not to give fruits. Yeah, question?
Yeah, doesn't it say in the Rambam clearly that even stuff which happened before, happened originally, will also not change?
We're also not going to change.
No, what happened originally when the world was created is also not going to change. Doesn't it say?
You're saying separately, the Rambam said the things that happened are not going to
I
change.
think you mentioned the same thing. The things that never happened, things that happened before, all those things.
Yeah. So you're saying the Rambam it's not going to change. Even things that originally were one way and then changed are not going to go back. Right. What that's what he's saying.
No, I think he's saying is that things that happened in the beginning when the world was created, we'll go back to that. Even though we don't do it anymore, but things that never happened, that we won't have.
No, I think the Rambam says that even something which did happen is going to come back.
Right, because it happened already.
Okay, so that's a good point. And that's where I'm trying to go. That's what I'm trying to say. So this idea that the trees did it, and the trees didn't give fruit. So did these trees never give fruits, or were they created to give fruits? And then for whatever reason, the Elon Yisrak at that point decided not to give fruits. And then, so now they're just going to go back to their natural being. Similar like what I said this whole idea when Moshiach is going to come, we say, Bila HaMavas L'Netzach, there will not be death anymore. What? So, that's again a change of Ma'aseh Bereishis. But really, when the Eibishter created the world in a way that there is no death. Only then there's a Chedei Tzadas, and the Eibishter brought down death in the world. Same idea with all these other things that started happening. So, l'chara, it's not really a spirit of the Rambam, all these things that are going to happen. And in fact, in the Sefer HaKodesh, which was written by around 700 years ago by this guy, by this Mekubal, Meir ben Yecheskel, he writes this idea. He says, when the Rambam says a shinui of Ma'aseh Bereishis, he's talking about a shinui that never happened before. But these things, that a tree is going to start giving fruits again, the trees always were meant to give fruits. And there's a little bit of an arichus in this thing. But the Rebbe doesn't really like that answer, because the Rebbe says again, we said two phrases the Rambam used. The Rambam uses the phrase Shinui Ma'aseh Bereishis, which that you can say what we just said. Then the Rambam also uses the word Olam K'minhagei Noyek. Minhag Olam, it's the way it is right now. At the end of the day, right now these trees don't give fruit. Right now, it's not standard for people to just wake up from the dead. So at the end of the day, we have to understand what this means, what's going on in the Rambam over here. So we'll just finish. So
that would be able to, if not for that, you would be able to say that Chesed HaMesim is considered.
It's on the Bila HaMavas L'Netzach. You could
actually never died in the first place. So
you could say that.
Right.
The idea. Right. You could kvetch. I mean, it's not 100% clear like that. But if you look at it the way that the shinui here is maves. So when you take away maves, Bila HaMavas,
Everyone is
whatever. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't. That was B'emes, but yeah. So Chesed HaMesim is really separate. That's not really the. So the Rebbe says according to this we must say that even according to the Rambam, there's this idea of two tkufas in the Moshiach. There's even in the times of Moshiach coming, there's the way the Rambam was machriach that when Moshiach's going to come right away, and the ideas of Moshiach coming, it has to be in the oifen of no change in Ma'aseh Bereishis and in the oifen of Olam Kimin HaYonei. Why? Because the Rambam is writing a sefer halachas. There's a halacha that Moshiach has to come. The halacha has to be in the oifen that could happen. A oifen that could happen mitzad us b'nei Adam. We cannot accomplish a shinui in Ma'aseh Bereishis or a change in the way the world has to operate. So Mele Zok the Rambam, in these halachas of Mashiach coming, it has to be Mashiach coming in these confines of Olam, in these ideas of no change in Ma'aseh Bereishis. But once that aspect of Mashiach happens, the halach of Mashiach happens, the world comes to Ma'amad HaMatziv. The Rebbe says in the Rambam, according to the Rambam, the world comes to Ma'amad HaMatziv. We're not anymore confined to Ma'aseh Bereishis. We're not anymore confined to Olam. The Mela, all these other things could already happen without any shaila. And in fact, the Rambam himself, in the letter of Tchias HaMesim, which one of the reasons, again, it's brought down that by people that are mevar this. So one of the reasons the Rambam wrote this letter of Tchias HaMesim, I think the Rambam even alludes to it in the letter, that again, people were learning the Rambam writing that Olam Haba is a neshama beloy guf. That's a steer to Tchias HaMesim. The Rambam's whole shit says that the ultimate idea of us getting schar is without a guf. So it's a steer to the whole idea of the fundamental thing of Tchias HaMesim. So the Rambam wrote a whole letter to explain that no, Tchias HaMesim is definitely going to happen, and that's a whole letter of Tchias HaMesim to make sure people don't call the Rambam Chas v'Shalom a kaifer. And this was one, and in that letter, the Rambam writes that this that I said, that these are all a mashal, says Ein Devareinu Zeg Zeda. This is not 100%. I'm not making a Zeda that it has to be this way. I'm only saying, and the Rambam continues, that being that when you learn something, you have to try to put it in things that you could relate to. So I'm putting it in a oifen that it's a mashal mulitza. If it's going to happen in a way, the Rambam writes, that we cannot say anything but that it's a moifis, then obviously it's going to be a moifis. So the Rambam himself, when he's not writing halacha, when he's writing the way the Yiddishkeit works, the Rambam says, no, this can't taka zan. And that's taka why the Rambam's kind of, on the one hand, in the Sefer Halach is forced to write that this is all going to be in an oifen of no change of aspirations. Now, 2 or 3 minutes, so I just want to finish. So l'chayra, you learn the Sefer, you learn a few six around this, and you think, okay, the Rebbe was miyash and a and Rambam. So, very good. All it's fine and shame. But the truth is, if you learn, there's a Sefer, Padam Shalom, I think, Tafshin on Aleph, and there's two other Adarim Rambam. I think one is Tafshin on Tes and one is Tafshin on Aleph, where the Rambam, and even in Tafshin on Sikh of Rish Chodesh Kislev, the Rebbe constantly is mentioning this idea of two tkufas in the Moshe Mashiach according to Chassidus, which means in Chassidus itself, the way not only beside this hekach that the Rambam, we have to kind of touch up the Rambam. There's this idea that even when Mashiach's going to come, we're constantly going to be, trying to go to higher levels and higher levels. So there's going to be the idea of when Mashiach's going to come, there's going to be this gala, the same that the Eibishter had, as using the terms of Chassidus, even the early Fnat symptom, like other Rishon Lifnachet. But that's not the tachlis of Golos, because then what did we achieve in the whole thing? So then there's going to start another tkufa. We're going to start being megala the shleimus avodah, which we got through being in Golos and through all the avodas haburim that we did right away. So which means this idea of having two tkufas in Moshe Mashiach, it's not just understanding Shvei Rambam. It's fundamental in the sense to understand what's going to happen when Mashiach's going to come. Like we said earlier. So taka. There's going to be Madanim Mitzvim offered. There's going to be everything. And that might happen right when Mashiach comes. The Rambam says, even according to the Rambam, there's not a sin if it happens right when Mashiach comes. But even then, that's going to be the Haskalah in the Mashiach, the way we could kind of transition from where we're now to Yemei Mashiach, which we're all ready to do already. But then we're going to come, we're going to all be together in Beis HaMikdash with Tchias HaMesim, and we're going to be in the open of the Gilel, of course, of Terech Hadash and Miti Tetzei, and we're going to see Mashiach and Re'iyah Chushis the way it is. So It's not shaykh that there's not going to start another Tkufa in Moshiach, where we're going to elevate ourselves to a much higher level. Anyways, I'm there.
Is there a mile dafka in the Eiluf Menagenek? It's like a tachlis that Shadafka be the Moshiach should be in Velk.
I don't know. No, but I do know that really the Ungenommenkeit in Chassidus is not according to the Rambam. Even right when Moshiach is in the Velk. The Rebbe does say, the Rebbe Adrab says that we're not davening for Zachu, Imanane Shmaya, that should not, even Moshiach's coming should be higher. Yeah.
Maybe Eiluf Menagenek means the way it was intended to be.
Yeah.
So Eiluf Menagenek no change because